All right. So listen, we got another amazing guest, Brian, my good friend Brian Fanzo from back in the clubhouse days. All right. We go way back in internet years. It's like almost like dog years. I feel like I've known you for like my whole life. But there's two major topics, Mr. Fanzo, that I want to go over with you. I think we'll start with the more complex one, which is Web3, NFTs, that whole fucking thing, because I know nothing. And so I want you to explain this stuff to me in the most simplistic of ways. I've gone to your Twitter spaces. And by the way, if you don't follow Fanzo on Twitter, you have to. But I've been to some of those. I still don't know nothing. That's number one. And if we have time, I'd actually like to talk to you a little bit about your speaking as well. I actually had a few speakers on, and I want to hear your side of the house on this if we have time. So let's start off with fucking Web3. First question. Is Web3's NFT or what? What the hell is Web3 the umbrella? So is Web3 MMA,
umbrella,
NFTs umbrella. Is UFC?
It's an umbrella. Like, Web2 is all encompassing Facebook, Instagram, websites, all of that. Web3 are things that are technically being built in the era of the blockchain, is what you could think of it that way. So metaverse falls into Web3, cryptocurrency falls into Web3, like VR, AR, like, because that's kind of leveraging this kind of universal. I think the best way to think about Web3 versus Web2 is that Web2 platforms owned our data and we got to use them for free, right? That's definitely the essence of Web2. Web3 is this idea of, what if we gave individuals ownership over all of their data and everything they have online? What does that look like, right? So Web3 is definitely in its infancy. NFTs happen to be one component of it. Right now, I think it happens to be the component. Most people focus on like the financial aspect, like people buying monkey photos and selling them. And I was in the clubhouse room when that was going down, and I tweeted out a screenshot and said, look at these idiots bragging about their $400 monkey photos. That tweet's been reshared more times than I account to admit to it, because many of them sold those monkey photos for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Actually, one sold this past weekend for $1.4 million, even in this current market.
I was going to say, even in the market right now, it's crazy.
Yep. The highest sale in the last 6 months was this past weekend. But if you think about it this way, and when the idea of ownership, right? Ownership in life, when we own something like our houses, right? We own a car. We know that very easily, right? It's a tangible item, and we have like a piece of paper that says, I own this car, right? And that is proof. If someone comes by and takes a picture of your house and tries to sell it, they can't do that. They don't own your house, right? There's a verified ownership. When it comes to online anything, there hasn't ever been a way to verify ownership, right? In many cases, we don't own our own website. And one would argue we might not even own our own email address, although, something like Gmail that many of us have had for many times. And so the idea of ownership is really what Web3 is about. And it's like kind of self-sovereignty. So it's the idea of like, what if I could own all of my data and decide who I share it with? What if I could prove ownership of the fact that I was the first one that launched this brand with this logo online, and I don't have to compete with people screenshotting or who posted the very first logo, right, from a copyright perspective? Imagine if you were able to validate that you could not argue, right? That was authenticated and validated online, that you own something. That's what the Web3 essence exists. And the blockchain, it's the name of the technology. It's kind of like the internet, like no one, www was there for a while, right? When we did like email, websites, eventually that dropped off. Eventually, no one will ever care about the blockchain, just like we don't care about cell phone towers or 5G or LTE. Like those things are only there at the beginning. But the thing that matters the most on this is that the blockchain gives us the ability to prove ownership of something, and it's not centralized. So it doesn't matter. There's no one person that owns it, right? So yeah, so it's a ledger, right? Think of it as a giant Excel spreadsheet. And every time you do something, you take out a new block, hence blockchain. But once that block is put there, it cannot be edited. It cannot be changed. But there's a tag and there's proof, right? So it'll say on this date with this hash that this was posted by this person at this time. It cannot ever, it's there for the permanently. And what's beautiful is it doesn't exist like on one server, like in the Facebook ecosystem or Amazon. it's using what they consider like this node network. So even if the United States internet went down, the blockchain survives and thrives. Where today our traditional things that are, most of it's on Amazon AWS or Google Cloud, that's very centralized. Google controls a lot of that. And so a lot of what I talk about, like for the most part in this Web3, is it's not as much about the tech. Like the tech is going to become seamless very soon. It's a perspective shift that says, wait a second, if I could take back ownership of my data and my privacy and how I share things, but I could also prove, right? If you're an agency owner, imagine with every successful client that you had, they were able to mint something onto the blockchain that said, I loved working with Raylan. He helped us achieve these goals. When you were, and this is where we're going. 5 years from now, someone's not going to say, send me your portfolio. Someone's not going to say, send me your LinkedIn. Because, one of the stats I love to use is 80% of the people that have Harvard as their school on LinkedIn never went to Harvard. 80% of people, right? Like they actually said sense. There's more people that said they went to Harvard in 2005 than if they added up 10 years of total attendance possible at Harvard, right? Like,
well,
so
that kind of makes sense. You can just put that in whatever. And I also thought about that too, from like getting interviewed. Like I've never been asked for, hey, show me proof you went to these schools. So yeah.
So, but if you think about it in this way, in where we're moving, your driver's license, every time you make a purchase, you're going to have a digital, piece that will prove ownership. And that anytime you're like, oh, do I own something? You'll be able to open your wallet. Now, the first use cases of this is cryptocurrency and NFTs. Yeah. Unfortunately or fortunately, they're very tied to like the financial gain that you can have for it, kind of like the stock market side. But the truth of the matter is, that's not even the stuff that is most exciting. That's the stuff that's helping get the tech built. The things that are exciting is like if someone buys a designer handbag, one of the hard things about designer handbags, well, A, there's not a great marketplace to resell them, but B, there's a knockoff market. But imagine if when you bought a designer handbag, it's not a receipt that can be copied, but it's something that's entered into your wallet that says you bought it on this day from this retailer. And then if you want to sell it to someone, you can say, look at it, this one that matches this bag I own. And when you buy this, I will transfer it to you. It cannot be disputed. It kind of takes away a lot of that, like those kind of markets. So that's technically what Web3 is about. It's this idea of kind of moving to a decentralized approach, but not everything is going to be able to be decentralized. I mean, there's some people that believe that, but there's are also people that believe the world's flat and stuff. So,
well, even like with metaverse, right? Facebook's going to own that, but maybe with things within metaverse, you're saying that stuff I can own. Like my avatar, I own. It's on blockchain. Is that kind of what you're saying too? Like even if I buy things within the metaverse, even though Facebook owns that owns that shit, the stuff within it that gets created, it's minted to me. So like it's mine.
So if you think about the metaverse side of the house, the metaverse will end up being very much like the internet, not think of it from social networks. So Facebook will have a front door for you to go into their metaverse, but I can name 15 metaverses that exist. And the beauty of it is that anyone can really build and create a metaverse of their own. And so, yes, Facebook will be a player, Apple will be a player, Amazon will be a player, but it's going to be much different than the days of Facebook and of the old, because in the decentralized model, what you bring into a metaverse, you can take with you. So imagine if you built a following on Facebook and you're like, I want to take that following to Twitter. You would be able to do that because you should, right? You owned it, you built it. But in the Web 2 model, we build it on rented land. They own it. They can shut us down. And in this model, it's like, hey, what if I owned think about it, like for gamers, it always connects, right? Because if a gamer buys a skin in a game or a new feature, they're stuck with it in that game. Well, what if they beat the game or they lose interest in the game? It's like, well, hey, you have that in there. You could try to do something within it. But imagine if everything we had, we could take with us no matter where we're kind of playing. And that's where we've even heard, recently that Roblox and Minecraft are both entertaining a metaverse-like experience where what you buy in Roblox could be taken and transformed, and you can take it, put it in your wallet and go spin up something in another experience, which technically is probably how it should be in the first place.
What really helps actually is seeing Ready Player One and reading the book now, cause I'm starting to because now, okay, things are starting to piece together a little bit, right? Like, because you can bounce between different metaverses or different like games or whatever, but that skin that you have, you own that shit. So it doesn't matter whatever you do. And it's that's actually kind of interesting because it'd be kind of fun if you think about it. Like, I have a PlayStation, so I'm sitting there playing God of War, but I want to play Last of Us. Well, in the Last of Us, I still want to be Kratos. Like,
Right.
that's kind of, but I own that skin, so I could take it with me wherever I went. That's actually kind of interesting.
And you
So
even own your identity, right? Because in each of those games, you have to create a new identity each time. But do we create a new identity every time? If you go to if I go to my daughter's soccer game, then I meet you in person at an event, and then I go somewhere else, I don't have a different identity. It's still me. Yet digitally, we have this like weird disconnection from like our reputation and our identity. And I believe that's a big one. Like digital identity, like the personal brand digital identity conversation is going to transform because yes, you might be behind an avatar or behind, an image, but I would argue that you could actually design that and create that where it is more of a first impression than a picture of you smiling on LinkedIn, right? And like that's where we're moving to. And digital identity might be one of my favorite aspects of this whole Web3 world that we're moving towards.
Dude, digital, like the idea of digital personalities or like whatever, I realize how fucking boring I am because I think I would just use someone that looks like me. Like I don't think I have a personality. I don't think like again, I got really into this honestly, and I have to thank you more and more because I started at least looking into it. I'm not saying into it, but because of you, because you started doing NFT 365. And obviously I'm a huge fan and I think I can say this. I'm a fan and a friend. I can be both. And so I was like, okay, I don't know if you remember, but I went into your Twitter space. I just think I asked like the dumbest questions. I was like, dude, I don't understand. So my next dumb question though, because this is actually why I love doing my podcast is because there's people out there that are too proud maybe to ask the dumb questions. And I am not. I have no shame. I don't give a shit. So I'm going to ask you another dumb question, but how can the online coaching community or just the entrepreneur in general, what do we need to start looking at when it comes to Web3? So that way it doesn't like hit us by storm and we're left in the dark age. Because I feel like there's a lot of people, what it reminds me of is I work with a lot of coaches and consultants that have been doing this shit for like 20 years, for example, and we help them get online because they were like, all of their business is done just by talking to people and whatever, which there's nothing wrong with that. They go to networking events, they walk into stores and they say, hey, I think I can help you. But how much easier is it to just go on Instagram or go on LinkedIn and build a personal brand and I'm like, dude, it's way less work. But then I started thinking, shit, I think I might be that old fucker in like 10 years because I don't know anything about fucking Web3. So what are some things I need to start thinking about as an online coach or make me want to throw up a thought leader in the future?
No, so I mean, I think this is
a thought leader before, so that was kind of gross. I didn't mean that.
I don't mind. You are a thought leader. You own it. Unfortunately, the people that call themselves that every single day are the ones that shouldn't be calling themselves that. So we can make that a point. So I'll push back. So this is the part that I'll kind of. We are way early, right? So the tech, a lot of the reason that I'm excited about the space is that the things we're doing today are proving use cases so someone can build the software to make it easy so that we can scale and do all of the great things, right? Because and that's how it works. I'm an early adopter. That's kind of always where I played. But in this space, more so than anything, we are very early. But in the coaching entrepreneur arena, why do people preach the importance of having people's email address, right? It's because you don't want to build on rented land and you want to be able to have direct access to someone, right? But let's also remember part of that disconnect is, well, no one loves email, right? No one said, please put me on another email newsletter, or please, that's, and that's our own marketer, problem that we all created. Marketers. But the other thing about that is, yeah, we do. And eventually Web3 will be ruined and we'll be on to something else. Who knows what's after that, right? Like that's just the way we're at. Mars. But if you think about it this way, what we have to start preparing for was, the other part, the email one is part of it. The other part is why do we hate giving out a discount code or hey, for anyone that signs up, they're going to get this amount off? Because let's face it, marketers ruined it. Anytime I'm going to buy something online, I Google to see if there's a discount code, right? Because someone posted it everywhere. But imagine if you could reward with an NFT every one of the people that are in your community, and you could set up automatically that only people that go to a website that hold this NFT that proves that they've been part of my coaching academy for 1 year get this discount. I could do that for you today. Yeah, could do all certifications, validation of certifications. You can also do it from validation for things that aren't in your ecosystem. So you said you had Carmichael on the podcast, right? What if you were like, man, and people that are part of his community, they're already at this level. So if you have Evan's NFT and you bought my NFT, I'm going to upgrade your level because everything is done transparently in this blockchain world. So for coaches, the idea that you can validate things, you can prove ownership and provide exclusive deals. But here's the other part of this, is you can start incentivizing and rewarding people in ways that actually matter, right? Because
you're talking like gamification almost, like there's levels.
No, I'm talking gamification 100%, not even almost. Yeah. Okay. Gamification in this space is because if you think about it now, right? Like, it's kind of sad, but like, even if someone's working a 9 to 5 and they get employee of the month, which, hey, I still think those things are valid, right? It's like a piece of paper or you go out to lunch. But when you leave that company, like, what do you go tell people that you got that? Like, none of that like kind of builds on. But if you think about it, how many things in our lives that we were rewarded, celebrated for that we really have no proof for, right? Medals. Yeah, all of those things, even accomplishing, certain, online courses, or the fact I attended a Zoom, or I listened to 20 podcast episodes in a row. So if you think about it, the technology is existing to where if you listen to this podcast, the next 20 in a row, I'm going to give you an NFT. Anyone that holds that NFT and is in my coaching academy, when it gets to Christmas time, you get free merch on the website and it's done automatically. And here's the other part of it. What if someone that loves your content, loves being a part of your coaching, part of what you're building, but then, they changed jobs or they had something happen in their lives? Well, because they own that piece, you could actually set it up and say, you have the ability to sell that. You have the ability to transfer that to someone else to reward them, because we know, like, that stat, I think, what is it? 9%, the average online course is 9% completed or whatever that stat is, right? But imagine if you could not only incentivize and reward people, but you could take those rewards with you. And I tell you what, Starbucks, I'm part of the beta team for Starbucks' NFT process. And it is amazing, because I tell you what, right now, like where I live now, I have 2 Starbucks that are nearby, and I've been earning stamps. So they have their normal reward process, but they actually have additional things. So if I go online and give them feedback on things that matter to me in their coffee growing experience in Costa Rica, which I never knew I cared that much about the growing experience until this process. And if I joined in their community discussions, they actually have one tonight where they have one of their executives is actually interviewing their old chief digital officer. By me attending there, they're going to give us an NFT for being part of that. That series of NFT is going to unlock special deals at Starbucks. It's going to unlock special deals with their partners. Like, let's say next year's Super Bowl, if they're a sponsor, they could reward their actual biggest fans that have validation and proof, right? That they actually accomplished something. But here's the best part. When I lived in Arizona, right? When I lived in Queen Creek out there in Phoenix, I had 3 Dunkin' Donuts near me. There was no Starbucks. So if I moved back to where I lived and I was like, man, I can't even use these Starbucks rewards that I have. There's a marketplace and ability for me to transfer them or sell them to anyone I want today. And that has never existed in the idea of like online miles or hotel. So for a lot of this, the concept, and I'll tell you, coaches already have the head start on just about everyone in this space, because coaches understand the idea of knowing your customer. We all know what's the best sales there is. It's a recommendation from an existing, client. What if you were able to, here's one of my favorite examples that I've been trying to get more people to embrace. What if everybody that bought 6 months of coaching, that you gave them a second NFT that said, hey, when you run into a friend or a family member or someone that you think is worthy, send them this NFT to their wallet. They're going to get 3 months with me, no questions asked, because it came from you. Yeah. What do you get? Now you get to empower them. Guess what else you do? Everything is transparent. You get to see who your biggest fans are. So it's going to change affiliate marketing and change influencer marketing, because now rather than a brand saying use this, Bitly link and people being able to bot a Bitly link, they're going to say, we're going to give you 50 NFTs. They're going to unlock a special tab on our website. and only your people are going to be able to get that and be able to validate that. And they'll be able to track it because it's all transparent on the blockchain. That's where this is going. And so for anyone that's trying to prepare for it, just start thinking about those things. Like, where would you wish that you had more ownership between yourself and those, either your biggest customers or your future customers?
Well, I never thought of it from this perspective, but like, if I love the idea of, hey, I moved, I can't benefit from this, like Dutch Bro, like I'm a huge fan of Dutch Bros. Like, I'm not buying Dutch Bros anymore. Like, I don't know what to do with this. So I can sell that to someone, and the value of that makes sense because I did all the fucking work to get all the stamps. Right. So
and shouldn't you be rewarded for that? And if you think about it, you're now helping Dutch Bros because you're sending it to someone else that maybe now they weren't planning on using it as much. And now you're kind of continuing on that journey. And you can also do things. And remember, the other part of this is so neat, is that it's all code based. There's no person, there's no intermediate. Like, you don't have to say like, oh, you have to have this, you have to have Stripe software installed. None of that exists. So I can simply say, if you have a token that I created and you go to anything I do and just you connect your wallet, you have that token. There's no like, it's not a Facebook token. It's not an Instagram, because I've done that, right? I grew a really large following on Meerkat and Periscope. And I had this like ridiculous offer, and people that were my super fans on Periscope, they got to ask questions first, come in early. Well, Periscope got bought by Twitter and dissolved. I could not do anything for them. And I lost all that audience and status that I had. But if they all had NFTs and I said, don't worry, I'm going to switch this over to YouTube. And as soon as I load up on YouTube, you log in with your wallet, and everyone that had that original pass, right? Like, even like, I mean, the easiest use case is bands, right? Like, we've all been a fan of a music, a band early before anyone else was. And it's like,
Weekend for me. I have an NFT. So I was a huge fan of The Weeknd, not a band, an individual.
Oh, yeah.
But I have my version of NFT is I have a picture of him in 2009 at the back of this, like 150 people in the crowd. And he went out, and we waited for him, and he went out in his car, and he have a picture of him like this. That's my version of an NFT. I have that picture. So when everyone's like, no, I've been a fan forever, I'm like, fuck you. No, you haven't. Check this out. But that's kind of like an NFT a little bit, I think.
It is. But think about it this way. From The Weeknd, he gets no relationship with you because of that picture.
Yeah.
But imagine if that when you were there in the crowd at song 3, they threw up and said, okay, everyone here in the audience that opens their wallet, you're going to have an NFT that's going to validate that you were one of these 150 people. Yeah, and then what if he did every year, those 150 people were rewarded over and over again? Would you not be even louder and prouder The Weeknd fan? Right? Like, and that creation, like the creating of it and the distribution of it, will be seamless in 3 years. Like, right now, it's kind of difficult.
Fanzo, here's my problem with the NFT thing is I fucking am all in. Like, in terms of the concept, I'm all in because I was like, man, it'd be so cool to have an NFT, like an elevated NFT. Now, apparently, I got hit up recently by someone that was like, hey, I actually have an NFT token, whatever. Here's my problem. I don't fucking trust NFT people. I'll get into that in a little bit. But the problem is it's so like, I don't know how to fucking mint these things. Like I talked to you and you went into detail about all that goes into starting, a campaign or whatever you call it. And immediately I was like, I am not doing all of that. Like, when do we get to the point where I can go almost like Canva, right? And go, I want to craft this. Thank you. And then an easy system that I can give my clients and fans and whoever, because I love the idea of it. Like, especially now, I mean, the same analogy of the brand thing. It'd be so dope if I can give NFTs to people that were riding with me since day one. You know what I mean? And then when we do blow up and again, we have millions of subscribers on YouTube, because guess what? I'm never going to give up on YouTube ever. And I'll get there eventually, even if it takes me 1 subscriber a year to get there, but we're going to get there. And I want those people to fucking have this shit. So, and by the way, I don't know what it is about you, Fanzo, but you bring the most swearing out of me ever. I usually don't swear this much on the podcast, but I'm excited. I think it's because like I know you and you're a friend, and most of my other episodes are with like professional. Anyway, when does it become, and your energy about this, it's like seeping into me. I'm getting excited about it. So when do we get to the point where we make the shit easy for Neanderthals like me that wants to give an NFT to their audience?
So where we're at right now is HTML pre-WordPress without even the thought of Wix for creating websites. Or
Yeah.
one could argue my very first podcast I launched in 2009, I had to learn how to spin up an FTP server, how to I had a metadata tag and enclose things. And I remember each episode was a day for me to actually just like build the file, right? That was the podcasting 2009, right? Eventually we got to a point where I could upload it to like one quote unquote server. And then all of a sudden they went to these like easy wizards, like the Lipsons, the Burberrys, the Megaphone, the Anchor FM. Like that's where so right now we are right at the cusp of what I would argue is like for websites, HTML to WordPress, right? So we're not to like Wix or to Squarespace to where like it's super wiki, like Canva, right? We're not at the Canva, but we are at a spot right now, like where we're at right now, where I can tell you, like I sold art NFTs, that there's some art things that I was creating, and I used a platform that allows you to buy it with USD, and you don't even have to have a wallet. So you put in your email like you normally would. It's really a Shopify experience, right? Sign up with your email with an account, and you build it, and then you get the NFT, and then what it says is, this is the instructions to create a wallet so that you can own it on your own side. So we are already getting to the place where the tech is starting to realize that like the onboarding was a little too steep and a little too crazy, but it's much like websites back. I went to school for web design. It's the only job I've ever quit in my entire life. First job I ever had, I was 2 months in and someone was telling me how to build it. I was like, oh, wait a second. I liked web design for my own vision. I do not like being told what to create. And that was the last time I created anything in web design. But like, funny enough, I left college, never heard of WordPress. And I was using Flash and Fireworks and HTML. Well, that skill set lasted me about a year before it was obsolete because everybody that was building things were using new tech. What's interesting is like this space, you're not late because what we've technically done is we're weeding out some of these tech and some of these like nuanced things on how you can create them. And like, I helped someone, the person's late 50s, fine artist, does not have social media, got Twitter, a little while ago because someone told him about NFT Twitter, and that's a big thing. And I helped him launch his own collection and onboard a majority of his fine art, people, because I was using a platform that had sign up with an email and then they'll walk you through the process. So we're getting there. And I think the thing that we have to like kind of do today is like worry a little bit less. Like I would actually argue, start identifying those people and thinking in your head, I'm going to reward them, right? Like in my community, I call it the 1093 or 1093. It's, modeled after the 1,000 True Fan, Kevin Crew, everyone knows the 1,000 True Fan essay. Well, my hockey number is 93, so I put 1,093. So the first 1,093 people that were supporting me in Web3, I sent them an NFT. And what I told them is right now, it can sit in your wallet. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to use it for. But I will tell you, everything I do when I launch my own event, when I start my book drops, guess who's going to get a free book? Guess who's going to, and they don't have to do anything. They just hold on to it. And the beautiful thing is, this is the other part that is really important, is that unlike email and unlike a lot of the other things, that everything requires an action to be rewarded, right? We've all signed up for something. We're like, man, I got access. Well, then I didn't go sign up to their webinar and I missed out, right? Well, this allows both the passive and the active members of your community to be rewarded. So you can add gamification and people can earn additional NFTs and add badges and such. Or you can just say, hey, hold it and don't worry. And I'll tell you, a couple of people that are, we are both friends with, like, I was like, hey, all you gotta do is give me a wallet address and I'll get this 1093 in your wallet. Who knows, 3 years from now, there's something you want to take advantage of. And so for those that are trying to be like, I'm not ready for this tech, I don't want to, because the truth of the matter is, my problem isn't teaching you. My problem is I need to teach you enough for you to be able to teach others, which is that train to trainer model, which we all know is a lot more in depth, because right now it does me no good to train Raylan, like, because you might get it, but you be able to have to turn that around and onboard and teach each one of the people in your community. That's a whole hell of a lot of work. Once the technology streamlines a little bit, that train the trainer like area will be a little bit less.
I'm committed to it, not again because of NFTs and what it could do. I just want to show in the most simple form in the world, like, hey, like, you matter to me. Like, I want someone to have this NFT, this elevated NFT, and be like, yeah, I've been rocking with elevated forever, because I think it's important. Like, I don't know what it is, and that's why I keep bugging you about NFTs, because it's important to me, and I want to learn it because I want to give that to some people. Because again, I've been fans of certain people for a very, very long time, and I'm very weird about it, but it's like when someone talks about, even the thought leaders that I'm obsessed with, I'm like, yo, I've been reading their books since like 2012. Like, you
Yep.
just
When
found out
someone
about
says
Jocko
Brene
Willink.
Brown, I
Yeah,
was like, I waited in line for an hour to get into a Brene Brown, and I couldn't even see her on stage, but I listened to her in 2013. Like, I'm with you. Like, I have
dude,
that
like I
same
would
like, kind
love
of
that.
connection. And that's where we're going, right? Because it goes into sports, right? Like, I've been to, I have season tickets for the Steelers, and I've taken my daughters to games, and I've been, but there's no way for them to even reward me or for me to prove that. Like, I have a bunch of ticket stubs, right? Like, it's our
Yeah,
generation is like the ticket stub hoarding generation. The next generation will be this, like, not only validated proof, but the people will be able to reward, and it'll be every type of creator, right? From coaches to chefs. Like, imagine if a chef that was cooking, everyone that was supporting an up and coming chef by buying their recipe book, or imagine when that chef opens a restaurant. It's not about giving the influencers. It's about, hey, all of you that bought that first cookbook that none of y'all should have bought because you didn't even know that I could cook. Like, I'm going to give you all passes, and you're going to put it in their wallet, right? You don't even have to, you might not even talk to them for 3 years.
yeah.
All of a sudden it pops in their wallet that they have exclusive access to your private restaurant. Like that, because like we both care about that, right? And there's a reason we care, because like people call the millennial generation not a loyal generation, which I always like, well, loyalty was always implied by us sucking up bad work environments and like believing that we couldn't jump jobs. The truth of the matter is we want to feel a part of something, and we want to feel that we're growing with this, and like we were ride or die early. The problem has been, not only does that relationship usually one way, but there's been no way to kind of catalyst that moving forward. And we've all seen it. Like, when a person gets big, they forget about the little guy. But I
Yeah.
would argue, I don't know if they forget about the little guy as much as
They
they
just don't know
lose
who they
connection with
are.
the little guy. Right.
Yeah.
Correct. Which
Like,
is,
like
that's the
even for
piece.
me, right? We have like 200 some subscribers on YouTube. I want to find out who the first fucking 5 were.
Yep.
And you know what I mean? Like, because that means the world to me that like I had no subscribers, no one was watching my shit. And again, I only have 200 right now. And even
Right.
still, I'm like, all those people that watch my videos and listen to the podcast, like, again, we're very beginner. Like, I think we have 22 episodes. Like, on average, we're like getting 34, 35 downloads. I want those 35 people to get something so they can say, like, I've been rocking with the Elevate Entrepreneur for this long. Like, I don't know, it's like a very deep thing for me. Like, and so that's why I love the NFT thing. Okay, so I do want to get into this.
I'll
though
tell you, I mean, I'm gonna tell you this though. I'm gonna
But
tell you this. By summertime, the one piece of technology with one of the marketplaces that I'm using, I believe will be at an onboarding place that'll make it easy for you to reward them. We're gonna do this by summertime. Let's say by that June timeframe, we'll fire up a smart contract, and we'll have something. And those 200 people, those that are listening right now, they'll be able to just go to a website and claim something via their email, and we'll kickstart that. Like, it's on the record that I'll do that, because I for me, use cases make this all work, right? So I love that your attention to those people, and let's face it, that's what this is all about, right? Like, I mean, we don't need millions of followers to make our business work and for us to pay the bills and make people happy. And the other part about it is, not only can people say, hey, I was one of your first 200 subscribers on YouTube, but whenever you're all of a sudden getting ad revenue at Casey Neistat's level, and you say, hey, 25% of my ad revenue goes to my first 200 subscribers.
dude,
And it's
that's so
automatically
cool.
taken out of my ad revenue spot every single month directly into their wallet just to say thank you.
Dude,
How
that would be
freaking cool would that
so
be? So
awesome.
we're gonna do that. We'll do it before summertime. You can
Dude, because I think,
you can hold me to that.
yeah, no, well, first of all, I appreciate that, Fanzo. But I think too, it's like those little, because I think about, I was talking to somebody recently about this, whereas like on Instagram, for example, I show up because there's people that are beginning, and they really, really like, they like the help for whatever reason, right? So on Tuesdays, me and my buddy Tim, we do Tough Love Tuesdays, and we just give advice. And what I love about that, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, is like, I have people on my Instagram, for example, that have been following me, go to every single live. They've never bought a dime from me, but they matter a lot to me. Like, I don't know why I'm getting a little emotional right now, but like, there was times where like, yeah, I was making money and shit, but like, here's the thing, those people, when there was like nobody else in the fucking room, I'm going live, and they were there, and that matters to me. So I'm like, even if it's a stupid fucking NFT, that doesn't mean, it's just the thought that I think counts. So what's the deal? Okay, am I crazy? Okay, so here, I need to be honest with you. I'm gonna be speaking of Brene Brown, be
Yep.
vulnerable with you. Okay. So there's people, I don't know how to word this so I don't get in trouble. So there's people that we know that I know are full of shit that have these big NFT projects. I think I used that term right, and I feel really good about it.
Yep, you
And
did. Yeah, you did.
all these people have the things, and they're always trying to get people to buy more of the shit. Immediately, my brain goes, "That guy's a charlatan. That whole project's bullshit. Like, I don't want nothing to do with it." So here's my question. Okay. Like, I guess, what is the purpose of those communities? Is it just to be a part of something? I just get very culty vibes from some of these projects. I don't know my question. I don't know. Am I crazy?
Yeah,
Am I
I know where you're.
overprotective, or what's the
No,
deal?
no, no. It's very much like if you think about it from like all of these early stages, there's people that like manipulate and take advantage of, right? That are like, you know what, I can use this to make people believe in something, like, and it could be even just the idea of like, as email marketing, took off, right? We saw people scamming people through email, right? We also saw people that understood it's about building trust over time, not selling them in every email, right? So, and the interesting part about the NFT decentralized component, right? The beauty of decentralization is no one entity is governing it. No one can take things away, right? Like this idea of like, we can own things is beautiful. The downside of it is it does allow some people to take advantage of that ownership and that ability to sell unicorns, rainbows, and bullshit, right? And they can, and when you think about NFT projects, a lot of them were an idea of like, I have art and I want to get people together. Where they're at today, because it took a while to kind of phase that out. Where they're at today is that it's like, hey, I have a community. The art is like the front emblem on a car. It allows us to peacock or to advertise the group that we're a part of. But ultimately, the NFT is just a token, and it proves access for me to get in. So,
okay,
I mean, Ryan, why is Ryan's Padea? He's a creator in the real estate space, right? He has, I think his podcast is in the top, 20. He launched an NFT project. Now the floor price on it and like what people are like buying and selling for is very low. But what he did was, to your point, was like, he's like, I just want people to be able to advertise, market, and say that they're part of our community. And so like, I hold one of them, right? Well, I bought like 3 of them because I know him enough to know that his community does not ever stop growing. And that the fact there's only a limited supply, right? So the piece of the NFT project that becomes manipulative for some people is that, in some cases there's 10,000 of them, right? Well, that might sound like a lot for some communities, but like for a Gary Vaynerchuk, right? There was 10,000 VFriends, and then there was 20,000 additionally. So there's only 30,000 possible opportunities to own a VFriends NFT. What does a VFriend NFT for Gary V get you, right? I've been a big fan and friend of Gary V since 2013. Well, first of all, I have no way to prove that I, got to hang out with him at South by Southwest. He gave me 20 minutes of his time. It changed my life. But what is beautiful about the VFriends idea is that by holding it, I have access to his private community that right now he's going live on software on Sunday nights. That the only people that can raise their hands to ask questions, you have to have that NFT in your wallet. He also is doing an event every year that the only people that get tickets, he's not selling them on a website. He airdrops you 5 of them and says, sell them or give them away to 5 of your friends. Come to this event that has Malcolm Gladwell and had Magic Johnson last year. And so it's in a way, anybody, many of us could say, we watched Gary's content. We understood you can hate him or love him, but there really was no way for me to say in 2 parts. There's no way for him to reward and know who were his biggest fans, but there was also no way for me to show online that I was a VFriends. I'm a Gary V fan, right? But now if you look to my wallet, you'll notice I got 3 VFriends NFTs and I have a VCon ticket in there. And so Gary now is saying, if you went to attended my first one, even if you sold my NFT and you don't like my content anymore, I'm going to give you another pass to my event because I would love for you to give me another shot and come back in. And so if you think of it that way, NFTs, and that's why right now, Starbucks calls them digital stamps. Reddit is calling them collectibles. Instagram is calling them collectibles. It's going to be very much like the QR code, right? Like no one's like, you QR code into the NFL stadium. No, I just brought my ticket and scanned a QR code, right? Like the NFT is technically the QR code of that. The biggest difference is, and this is probably a great analogy just for everyone to kind of wrap their head around, we've all played Monopoly before, right? And there's 4 people, you're playing Monopoly, the board game. You don't need a 5th person to be the banker in a board game. Well, unless you're playing like with my kids who try to steal stuff, but you don't need. And the reason is that when you divvy out money and you land on Park Place, I don't need to have someone validate that I'm going to give you the money because I can see that, hey, I own Park Place, you landed on it, you give me the money. What this whole NFT space does is it gives me visual representation of that without needing the banker or the Facebook or the intermediate. And so to the point I was mentioning, you could actually go right now and look at the contract and you can see how many individual holders are holding Gary Vee's product or Ryan's product or another there's a couple others that are in this space that have launched their own NFTs. And the beauty of it is I can prove that, but here's one of the coolest parts. Shaquille O'Neal he wanted to raise money for book bags for kids in Florida, right? And we all know, like, I love when people are raising money and I'm a big cause guy, but one of the things we all worry about is like, how the hell do we even know that they're going to spend the money where they're going to spend? Well, guess what? When I bought his NFT, right? So he had all these different, photos and images of it, but what he promised was 100% of that amount would go to book bags. And then what he did on the website is here's my wallet. Here's the wallets for all of the schools that I went and set up for in the state of Florida. You can watch, as soon as you buy the NFT, your amount, you can see the transaction ID. It says it went to this wallet. It then says it went to this wallet at the school. I can actually, with no one having to show you, no special access, and you don't even have to have I could give you the website now and you could actually just look and it says transferred on this date to this date. So like that layer of transparency in community building, but also in raising funds and raising businesses. I mean, we've all seen that, right? And so this kind of goes back to answering your other question. As we become smarter as consumers in this space, those that are doing the Ponzi scheme, those that are running these like pyramid Ponzi, constant sell, upsell. And then once they don't deliver, they just tell you to sell it and they do the same thing to the next person. Those people are getting weeded out. But just like in all of these mediums, like their example is just taking advantage of people that haven't been educated enough to recognize that isn't the only way things are going. And so, I mean, I will tell you, a lot of those NFT bros, crypto bros are not my people. You'll notice none of them are on my podcast. None of those people are associated with me because like, for me, it's like, wait a second. Like you believe in ownership, you believe in celebrating and transparency and providing value, yet you're going to shame somebody for selling. You're going to not deliver on what you promised and then make them out like, you're going to gaslight them. And the funny thing about it is you don't even have to, there isn't like a give or take. Like I've done this before. I bought an online course, one of the biggest online course purchases I'd ever made. Bought an online course. I think it was like $6,500. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take this online course. Yeah, I know. I was like, what I was thinking of. And the idea was 12 chapters were done. And when we got to finished the 12 chapters, there's gonna be 3 live chapters that were going to be able to be delivered. Well, I got to the 12, kept waiting. Well, guess what? That creator never delivered those 3, never. And the unfortunate part was they just marketed and advertised how many people came to their Zooms, how many people were in their screenshots. And more people were getting in without seeing that they didn't deliver on that. But imagine though, if we all had NFTs and by holding that NFT, we continue to get services. If you went and looked at the NFT marketplace and you said, wow, there's 10,000 people in their community and only 18 people are selling them, they must deliver gold, right? Like think about your gym. You're trying to figure out what the best gym is to work out on. If every gym had 5,000 NFTs, the gym that had very little of them for sale probably is a gym that's delivering on the quality and the service and the experience that you would want to be a part of. So it actually holds people accountable at a very transparent level, which is also why the government and big business is scared ridiculously about this, because those that have been selling unicorns and rainbows and kind of manipulating numbers and growth margins and things, you get exposed in this world. And so that's why there's a lot of pushback from one side because they're scared of transparency. And then there's also some really shady people that are taking advantage of people. But let's face it, that existed at the start of social media. That existed with people. Like I remember people selling people for $40,000, they would build you a website. And then they would go literally on the back end of WordPress, buy a template for $50, fire it up and give it back to the person, right? Like, I mean, like that was, and like, were those selling, agencies selling website, all of them bad and not delivering great? No, but there were some people that realized some people just didn't know better. And that's technically where we've been at for like the last year. The last thing I'll just throw in on that, a lot of the bad press around this space has not been about the blockchain or NFTs. It's been about greedy people using old school tech to manipulate people, right? FTX has been the biggest news in this space with $10 billion. Funny enough, if he actually, because what he owned was an exchange. So it wasn't decentralized. It was kind of like a front door marketplace, like a Amazon or eBay. But the problem was people were thinking they were buying something. On the dashboard, he would say, you bought 5 of those. On the back end, he wouldn't buy any of those 5 for you. Well, guess what? That's always been going on. But if he actually was doing that on the blockchain, you wouldn't have to wait to see what he was doing. You would just say, he bought 5 of those NFTs for me. Let me check my wallet and make sure there's 5. So weirdly, the biggest scandal, the biggest drama in this space, I mean, $10 billion. I mean, Tom Brady, I mean, the number of people that were impacted was insane. The wild part was it was a greedy human that was using old school manipulation, like the Madoff tactics of that kind of building. But if they had put that on the blockchain, no one would have had to say, like, are they really doing what they're saying? We could just go prove it. And so like, that's where we're going. And there are some bad actors in the moment.
Well, you gave me like such a good idea. Well, first of all, let me back up to make sure I understand this, but the way you described it now, it makes more sense. So the NFT is just to certify that you are part of this community. So it's actually more now, anyway, it sounds like it's more about community, and by wanting to be a part of this community, buy this NFT, and now you're in it and you're part of you're part of the group. Do I have that kind of right for a lot of these?
Think about it. So you're going to talk speaking here in a second, right? National Speakers Association. I've been a member of that since 2014. You follow me online. People follow me online. How many of them know that I've been a member of National Speakers Association since 2014?
Yeah.
Nobody. Unless you see me tweeting or posting images at their event. Well, what the NFT ultimately does is it gives me a visual representation to like market, advertise, and prove that I have that membership. So in all pieces of it, there's an individual token ID. That's the non-fungible part, because it can't be, there's only one of that one token number that I have. But really the art, quote unquote, in the NFT, the monkey photos that I didn't understand, the monkey photos aren't what people care about. Yeah, cool, it's the art, we get to show it off. But the fact that if you own a Bored Ape right now, you're jumping into a community space where supposedly, and I'm not in that community now, but apparently a couple of weeks ago, Eminem was in there having a debate with one of the producers of Timberland, and it had Justin Bieber's agent was commenting. And if you want to be a part of that kind of community, you can go buy a Bored Ape today, and it unlocks that door where Eminem's having that conversation. I mean, that's really what the NFT is, more so than anything else.
For what I do, I think it would be really interesting if I had a set, because here's my goal every year is I want to help 100 coaches like either start or grow their business. And that's why we have like Elevated. It's only $97 a month. Like, because I wanted to go like every other coaching program. And again, listen, go make your money. Like just go make your money. But like, here's the thing is that I just don't think you need to spend 10 grand or 20 grand to start a business. But so that's why it's $97. But what I'm thinking could be interesting is that like, all right, well, if we only have, let's say 100 a year, right? So we have 100 NFTs. And when you feel like you're served, like I got everything I need, then you can sell to the next person. But in order to sell it, it's almost like what I would do is like, they got to be legit though. Don't just go sell it to somebody. And that token will always be like $97. I don't know how I would work it, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. I think that'd be kind of cool.
You could even have them, they decide to gift it to somebody. It still has to be validated, or they could sell it directly back to you. And then you kind of have that ability. And remember the beauty of these NFT contracts, people get into like making it way more complicated than it is. All it is a line of code that's if this, then that statement, right? So you could pretty much say, if you decide that you no longer have this of value and you want to do this, you can activate a lot of that. And unlike in Web 2, where you would have to have all these mechanics and you have to make sure you have all the software. I mean, we've all, like I had Kajabi and then I switched to another piece and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a nightmare. Well, for me, like those 1093, no matter which platform I'm building, I just have a gated part that says if you own these tokens. And you can also do things like one of the cool ones that we're seeing a trend right now is it says, what if you were served? And this is what I'm gonna let you do. You can burn your pass, which burning just means you're gonna give it back. And when you give it back, I'm going to give you a special token that is set in your wallet. You
Yeah.
can't sell it. You can't buy it, but it gives you lifetime access to me down the road if you ever want to tap back in for one call a year. And then every person that burns it, it unlocks one more for the person on the back end that's waiting. So if they weren't part of those first 100, and let's say you have 200 people there on the back end, they're going to determine not the $97, because that was you saying, hey, first 100 people. If there's 200 people that want that one pass that just came free because one of your first people just freed it up, maybe they buy it for $500 because, for $500 a month, because they now realize the supply and demand side. So it takes away your need to not only, because I love the idea, hey, I want to make it made affordable people, but if the value is such at a point where so many people want in, shouldn't you be rewarded for kicking ass, not for having to kind of go back to the wheel? And so that's where this kind of comes into play. And that's where the marketplace and the sharing, because I mean, let's face it, we could probably do that with Delta airline miles right now. I'm Diamond. I've flown over 1.5 million miles on Delta. That's not a flex. It just means way too much time on a silver bullet. But there's no way for me to say I have this status and points. How do I sell it? In a way, NFTs automatically create that marketplace. You could have it live on your website.
Also, by the way, Fanzo, again, you are such a good fucking spokesperson because now I understand NFTs. Now, if you sell, for example, if you wanted to sell those miles, for example, right? And sell the NFT that represents those 1 million miles, what they're buying is the fact that they get to say they've flown, they're in the Delta Diamond Club.
Correct.
They're not buying the fucking NFT. Now everything makes sense to me. I get it. Yep. This is awesome.
Yeah, if you think about it, it's literally a key. You're giving them a key that proves that it unlocks the thing that you had when you sell it, right? The day that someone sells their Bored Ape, right? You bought it for $400 in that room that I was in. When you sold it for $100,000, that day you can no longer get back into the community. But that person that bought it can jump into the community because now they have that key, and there's only 10,000 of the keys. And the reason that they're worth money is because there's 400,000 of us that would want to be in that community. And the price point is what it's supply and demand, right? The whole NFT market is about, hey, who's willing to pay what, right? That's why there's a lot of people that there's floor price and all this manipulate. It's just a supply and demand conversation, right? They have a finite supply. And right now for VeeFriends, I'm dude, Raylan, you should jump into Gary Vee's community. The reason that right now it costs you $840 to get in there, it's the lowest entry point, is because there's someone that's been willing to buy it for $830, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's just the minimal vial. And now I bought into Gary's community at $199. So even I've got all this delivered value, I could sell it for a profit right now, and I could kind of move in that thing. But the minute I sell it, I give them all the access and the things that I could take advantage of. And so that's very much a membership model that exists a lot of other places, but that finite access. And I think for what your model right there of 100 pieces, and you could even say, we're going to unlock 25 new ones every year, but those 100 will be the 100 that are always going to be there. And if someone's no longer there, you can burn it back in and I'll unlock it for somebody else. And I'm going to still take care of you in the future, right? So it allows, and the beauty of it is there's no back end, you don't have a spreadsheet of I mean, we've done that, right? Where you're this person paid for this many months, they have this access, so I need to put them in this email list. Yeah. It's all done via validation. You have this NFT, it unlocks that. There's no they can't make copies of it and send it to their friends. They can't put a code on Reddit or post it in some Facebook group to take advantage of your webinar backlink. I mean, think about that. For all the webinars that people go to, only people that hold my NFT can go to this, right? When we go in there, we know that there's a finite amount, and it validates that you have it in there. That's the part that's really exciting about the space.
Dude, you unlock so many cool things. Every time I talk to you, I get more ideas, which is probably an unfortunate thing, because I probably think I have too many ideas anyway. That's part of my problem. But no, now it's making sense, because for example, I know of people that are in this space that are old heads, I call them, but one of them just bought a virtual reality company, and it's because he's always super far ahead. I'll tell you who after the recording, but he's always been on this. So I'm been asking myself, what the fuck is he thinking? What's going on in his head that I'm not seeing? And now that you're talking about this NFT thing, I'm oh, that unlocks so much in terms of, again, just one on the business side, it makes perfect sense, but also the user. they get to flex and be like, yo, I've been a part of this community. Because again, imagine I want to reward my first 25 Academy members, because again, they were there at the beginning saying, I trust Raylan. Now, eventually in 5 years, 10 years, because the Academy is the one thing I will say I will always do, because it's more than just whatever. Like I love I love the Academy. Now on the other stuff, the podcast agency, I don't know, Fanzo, in 10 years it may change into a fucking NFT agency. I don't know. But the Academy's not going anywhere. I want those first 25 people to go, yo, I was here from the jump. Because let's face it, I might not be that a part of it in 10 years, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So
anyway, think about this too, though. When you sell a business, how cool would it be that the people that still own your NFT, you could literally transfer the contract to the business, the person that buys the business, and those that were your fans still get the benefits that would be included, which is always like that. Like, hey, I want to pass it on, but I don't want to like alienate my, like, how cool is it that you can pass that along? They can continue to build on that. So that is a big, kind of this component of it. So yeah, I love that's where you're going. And I'll say the thing where most people get wrong is they think that Web3 metaverse is about spending more time digitally. No, it's just owning the fact right now we spend about 50% of the time online and 50% of the time offline. But our online experience has no ownership, no validation, and no way for us to even flex, right? There's a reason you buy, a Beamer versus a Hyundai. People aren't, like that logo on the front, when you pull it into it means something, right? Like it's a reason why someone has like a yacht and parks it at a certain thing. Weirdly, digitally, we've just never had that. It's why the fake influencers exist. It's why people say they went to Harvard, they didn't go to Harvard. So in a way, we're not saying that we're going to live more online, but we're going to make what we do online be more validated, more authenticated, and in a way, more like us, because I can have that Ready Player Me avatar, and you can have, I can have my pink dad girl hair on there. And when you click on my avatar, it pops up and says, Fanzo spoke at all of these events, and all of these events gave him these NFTs on these days. You don't have to believe that I spoke at these events or that I shared the stage with Michelle LeBlanc. Yes.
Oh my God, Fanzo, you are so damn smart. And the thing about you, Fanzo, and listen, we'll wrap up here. And I know that I said I wanted to get into speaking, but Daddy's got to eat. I haven't eaten all day. Sometimes I do this thing where I don't eat all day because I'm working, and then I go, oh, just fasting. But really, let's be honest, I just forgot to eat. All right, so. But what I love about you, and I think that's why you're the best spokesperson for NFTs for me, is because you know coaching, and you know my world, and you know NFT world, and so you're the middle part that I've been missing. I've heard people talk about NFTs, and I'm just like, I'm not seeing it. But when you talk about the fact that, like, again, if I put on my website, for example, Forbes list, fucking entrepreneur, whatever. Guess what? For those that don't know, I'm sorry to break your hearts, but people pay for those things. But if I go speak somewhere and I say I've spoken on 10 stages this year, whatever, here are the NFTs. Like, go check them. I love that. Let's go. Wow, Fanzo.
And it really does. Like in my view, like, and part of the reason why I get so excited about it is it rewards great people that are doing great things. Right now, there are still people selling unicorns, rainbows, and BS. There will always be the loud flexers and those that are the scam artists. But in a world, in the digital
world, I am loud and I do flex sometimes. But go ahead.
I mean, I'm very. The minute King James got the scoring title, I was Instagramming my King James. I got the James on right now. The new, like, I'm all for that. But I think that's part of like the interesting thing is like, what if I could prove the things that people are claiming? Because for the most part, if you say you own a house, we walk into your house and know that you own the house, right? Like, they're like, in a weird offline world, that validated proof is always there. We always blamed online and influencers and these fraudulent entrepreneurs. Well, no, there was just no way for the good people to prove that they were doing what they were doing. So of course the bad people are going to manipulate and fake shit and put stuff out there. But in a world where we can start to validate that you can prove it. Like I told a company that came to me the other day that said we wanted to work with me as an influencer. And I told them, I was like, I don't care who else you're working with. What does success look like? And I'm going to drive that. And so she told me what success looked like. And I said, okay, well, how am I going to prove that? And she's like, we don't really have a way to prove. I was like, so the version of success to me to prove the value, you can't even validate it. So I have 100,000 followers. Someone you hired has 1 million. You're going to assume they did better than I did. But I was like, imagine if you gave us all the same amount of NFTs, and the people that checked out with the NFT in there validated that they came for me. I bet you I'd move more people to buy your software than that 1 million followers person. And she was like, right? Like, because like that's the point where it's allowing those of us that like, hey, we need social proof. We are backing up what we have actually done. It does it, and it's immutable, right? Like there's no one, when someone mints an NFT on there, no one can take it away. No one can delete it. No, like it's literally permanent on the blockchain. That's kind of how that thing works. And like, I mean, can't be hacked because it doesn't sit in one location. So like a lot of that like world of like, because like some people might be thinking like, wait, we have certifications and validations places as well. I will tell you that in the speaker world, I've seen it where people posted in speaker groups. Here's the validation of me completing the online course to get access to here. Copy it and put your name in there and submit it, right? And like, I'm just saying that's how it works. But if I gave them one NFT and that NFT is what got them in there and proved it, there is no way for them to copy it or manipulate it to give it to someone else. And so it really does kind of cut down on some of that like kind of BS as well. But I appreciate the kind words, and I love what you're building. I always love what you're putting out. And for me, that's like the reason I'm on this space, did a podcast every single day for a year. We're into season 2 now, is because like I want to help utilize, prove all these use cases, go back to great people like yourself and say, let's go implement this, because it's going to reward you because you're someone that delivers on what you say. It's going to reward your people that are supporting you now, because 10 years from now, they're going to wish they had the weekend photo that you have, that you were at that concert. And they're going to actually have an NFT that's in their wallet that says, hey, I was part of one of, Raylan's early fans. And I think that's the beauty.
So by the way, I know I keep saying like we're done, but talk to me about what are you doing for season 2 of NFT 365?
So we're doing 3 days a week now.
I didn't know you were doing. Okay, so good. You are going to take a break.
I did stop the daily. That was it was way more of a sacrifice than I ever realized, and in many ways, right? I mean, this is like it. Like I couldn't even promote the episodes because there was a new episode every day. Like I was annoyed at my own content because I was putting it out every day. And I also brought in some co-hosts that I got. I have 3 females that have joined the team, 2 minorities that have joined the team to provide some different voices to kind of not be the cis white male only hogging the mic. And we also kind of changed up some of the formats. So have some interviews, have some just dialogue. But yeah, 3 days a week. We're still up on YouTube in the podcasting realm as well. But of course, I did take on a daily thing, but I'm actually creating an AI piece of art every day. And today's day 60. So I've done an AI piece of art as an NFT every day. And that's the piece I'll kind of put out there. There are NFTs that don't unlock anything. They just prove ownership of art. So there's an entire art world that might be listening to this like, wait a second. So you could actually buy someone's art physically, and they could give you a digital version that says, I own it. And when you sell it, you transfer it. Or if you just want to display it, right? Like, I mean, something that's really cool that's been happening to me is I started creating AI art to tell these certain stories. I actually have them hanging. Those are all my pieces over my shoulder. And I'm seeing people blow them up in their house because it relates to something that they heard on the podcast that I then made an NFT piece of art for it. That piece of art doesn't give them, they bought it for $120 or whatever it was that day, but they own it. There's only one of them and they have proof that they own it. And let's say all of a sudden my art becomes more popular. They can sell that at any time they want and they can ask for any price they want. And the cool thing is every time they sell it, I get a 10% royalty right into it. It's baked into the contract. And so the part of this for artists that I love is it removes the starving from the starving artist. Because we've all heard the story. Someone sold a painting for $400 because they needed rent money. And all of a sudden, some rich person 4 years later bought it for $400. That artist still made $400. In the NFT world, every time it's resold, you can bake into the contract what percentage goes back to my wallet. Like today, actually, one was resold, one of my pieces, but it was for $200. But I literally got, it was $18 into my wallet. And I was like, awesome. What the hell is that for? How cool is that? And I did nothing. The person that bought it for less, sold it for a little more. The person that they sold it to loved it and just kept messaging and said, hey, I really love that, buy that piece of art. So we all kind of won in that space. And that's just another kind of example of this, kind of NFT world that exists.
Fanzo, I hate you because you give me so many cool ideas to use for my business. Dude, all right, we gotta end this. Fanzo, I can't stress enough, man. You're one of the good ones, dude. You're always there to support others. And for those that are listening to this, if you don't know who Fanzo is, he's an amazing person. Please go check his shit out. Fanzo, thanks,
Thank you,
man.
my friend. Cheers.